think we are live. Let's see if this is. All right, we're going to see if this works. Third time's a charm. Having some equipment difficulties. Let me know if you guys can hear me because I'm using a different mic. Audio is now working, it says. All right. Sorry about the delay. I was trying to use a different phone that was better quality, and for some reason it was just not working, so I'm using a little cheap phone. So if the quality isn't that great, then that is the reason why, and I apologize for the delay. So we'll see how well this works. I haven't done a live stream in forever, and first of all, thank you all for joining. But I haven't done a live stream in forever, and it's mostly because the quality of internet we have to deal with out here is pretty bad. And so most of the time, because it takes a whole lot more of a data stream, I can't do a live stream. So hopefully we're trying to fix that and try to get better internet. But for right now, let's try this today. Looks like there's about 30 people in. I want to say thank you for all of you that are joining. I think my wife is going to be in there. I tried to set her up as a moderator, and let's see. She's trying to tell me something. What's this? It says that you're not.
Just make sure they can see you.
Yeah, they can see me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mine isn't working.
Okay, maybe you need to back out of it and try to get back in.
Okay.
All right. All right. Anyways, the things we have to deal with out here in the sticks trying to get online. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and I wanted to bring up a few things and then also just listen to you folks and what you have to say about what's going on and updates with you. I know that there's a lot of people asking about the map, and the map project is in full force, and it's just a thing of us trying to keep up with the flow because there's a lot. I'm sending out clusters of emails, and when I say that, different regions of the U.S., that there's a cluster of you, I send out an email to everyone, and I have done 30 of those just in the last couple of days. I've gotten a bunch of more emails since then, so I've got to put those in and send those out also. So there's a lot of activity going on. It's exciting. I've been hearing from feedback that people are already setting up, trying to meet at like coffee shops and stuff to get to know everyone. Hello, fellow Missourians. I'm trying to also read hello from Nashville, Tennessee. Hey, that's where I was born. I wasn't raised there, but I was born in a hospital in Detroit area. The microphone cutting out. Could be, let me see. I'm checking my gear. And let me, is it cracking? It is windy here, so it could be that, and maybe it's my beard, so let me move my microphone to get off of the beard and see if that helps. And we'll try to see if that works. So has anyone seen the, I'm going to jump right into it. Has anyone seen the footage out of Paris, France? I will probably do a video on that in the next day or two. It is absolutely, it's crazy. There is the lockdowns. They've locked the city back down again because of this health crisis. Hello from Liberty Hill, Texas. Coming to the Ozarks in the spring from Seattle. That's awesome. But have you seen the evacuation of people there in Paris? It's very dystopian looking. I haven't seen exact numbers of the amount of people they estimate are leaving, but they did say the British news was reporting that there were 430 miles of interstate and freeways in and around Paris that is traffic jam because of people trying to get out. And there's aerial, looks to be probably from like a helicopter or something. And it's just, as far as you can see in every direction, every interstate is bumper to bumper backed up at night. And I've seen footage of inside the city where it's that way. And the people that aren't leaving are basically rioting and protesting because of these draconian lockdowns that they're reinstating in Paris. And while I'm not saying that those types of lockdowns will be here everywhere, there are definitely some cities that have in the past have the lockdowns of that level, and most likely will again. If you look at the numbers, I think it was just the other day that we set a record here in the United States of positive cases, even higher than back in the spring when it was going full force. So the odds of there being more lockdowns in the state, and I know that President Trump said that if he gets reelected, kicked the camera. He said that he wouldn't do any lockdowns, but he didn't really do any lockdowns before. El Paso, Texas, Illinois, just kind of checking out the comments. So, and GRS trans, is that right? Thank you for that. Even if he does get elected, and there's probably a good chance of that, and he doesn't do lockdowns because he was not responsible for really any lockdowns over the past spring and summer, that doesn't mean that that governors wouldn't go in and lock down again and maybe be even worse, because it does look like the numbers. I mean, even if the virus itself isn't as bad, or the mortality rate is much lower, it's kind of permeated the population by now. So of course it kind of makes sense that there's going to be a lot more cases of it by now, in a new wave. So get ready for that. That was one of the things I wanted to talk just a minute about. And then just the overall lockdowns. I've seen other countries. Yeah, we don't need lockdowns. Scott Studo, that's correct. I've been of the belief since the beginning of this that if there is this virus that is out there, one old man, Steve Wilson, thank you, Steve. If there really is, this disease out there, this virus that's can be a pandemic. So let's just live under those assumptions. I believe in the beginning, if people in government had been very open and honest and logical, critical thinking, and not had this back and forth information, and been just honest with people, I think the majority of people would have been responsible and taken appropriate measures to not, continue to spread it. But that just wasn't ever the case. It's just been it's been politicized since the very beginning. And whether or not it is real, and I'm saying under almost a hypothetical scenario here. Let's say that it is. Let's say that it's really bad. If they had just handled it that way, and because that's part of what leads me to believe that it's all orchestrated. I'm not saying it's a hoax. I've known people that has gotten sick from it, and I've heard of people that have died, and it's possible that it does affect people that way. But I think that in the end, I kind of feel that it's been orchestrated all along. And even if that's not true, they're certainly taking advantage of the situation by the stuff that they're doing. So let's see. This phone that I'm using, I did not want to use this phone. It's got a very tiny, much smaller screen, and so it's a little difficult for me to see your comments. So that's why I keep pausing so that I can look at the comments. Is my microphone? Is it really staticky, man? I don't know what's going on. I wonder. Okay. Let me hold the microphone. My wife's telling me that it's really... We'll see if this helps with the microphone. It could. Let me try something else. The joys of doing this way. Let's see. Make sure I'm connected properly. And microphone, it's fully charged, and it's sitting right on top of the camera. So I was hoping it wouldn't lose. But yes, and 6. It is a wireless, and I'm afraid if I unplug it, the mic on this cheap little camera is going to be pretty awful in this breeze that we have out here. So that's why I'm avoiding unplugging it. And so she's trying to help behind the camera and see if we can get it better. I guess I could always try that that boom mic or that shotgun mic camera that we have. Anyways, let's keep the show going, and hopefully you guys can hear. The other thing that I had wanted to talk to you about is just the overall election. There's just this big hype about it. And, I still occasionally hear news sources talk about the possibility of social unrest, of rioting, of protests, of violence. And my personal opinion is that it's going to happen. And I'm saying that based on the fact that that kind of stuff has happened the last couple of elections. Not widespread, not large numbers, but there were a lot of protests the last election. And so the odds of this one having a lot of protests are pretty good. I think the question is how bad is it going to be? According to what the opposition, the left is saying, they're, especially the hard left, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, a lot of these other groups. I mean, they're saying that they're gonna riot, and they're gonna riot hard. That they're gonna burn cities to the ground. That they're gonna try to take, control of government buildings in Washington, D.C. and around the country. So, that's just what they're saying. The media is drumming up kind of a lot of fear on it. The right is saying the same thing. I'm not finding any area of media or government or online or anyone that's saying that it's going to be nothing. So I think that we definitely have to plan and prepare for that. We're less away. If you live in a really big city that could probably see some violence, you need to kind of prepare yourself for that. And then also the disruption. I did see one person had a pretty good suggestion. They said, starting tomorrow, if you haven't done so already, maybe it would be a bad idea to, if you have any important documentation saved on computers and phones and stuff like that, to print that off. I don't think we're necessarily going to see like a collapse of the electrical grid, but there could be some disruption. There could be, you just never know. And so that's always a good suggestion, to have hard copy backups of any important documentation. I'm going to drink me a sip of coffee. So I hadn't mentioned that before, and that wouldn't be a, too bad of a deal if you were capable of securing any important documentation, especially if you live in an area that there could be a lot of looting and violence and burning of buildings and houses and stuff like that. Let's see, I'm going to try to look at getting a lot of comments here. High hopes from the Ozark Mountains. Someone looks like they bought some ammo recently. A lot of comments going on. Thank you for all your comments and your support. And the channel has just been exploding lately, and I appreciate that a lot. I appreciate the very positive comments that I'm getting from you folks. Yeah, ammo. I see some discussion there in ammo. I had looked at, not to purchase, but out of curiosity, had looked at some 9mm bulk ammo about maybe a month ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I about fell over. It was 1,000 rounds for around $700-800. Now, I'm not sure that I'm sure you could probably find it cheaper than that, but I couldn't believe 1,000 rounds of 9mm for $800 is just kind of mind-blowing to me. So, is it really because there's a shortage, or is it because some of these companies are taking advantage of the moment? Who knows? I'll put my coffee cup down now. Got my sips in. Definitely. A lot of people are also saying that there's no ammo available. At least around here, I'm not finding that. I'm finding that 9mm and 223 are hard to come by, and it's gone up in price. I can still buy a box of 9mm and 223 at a local gun shop, but they don't have a whole lot, and the price has increased substantially 2 to 3 times. But pretty much any other ammo around here, for the most part, I can purchase just like before. I mean, you go into this guy's shop and the ammunition wall is pretty much full, other than a few spots where the 9 and the 223 are located. But for those of you that have not purchased any type of defense weapon, and you're looking to do that, man, you can try to get something soon if you want. At some point, the prices and availability might come back up, but that's all assuming that things kind of level out after a while, and we all hope that happens. But is it going to happen? We have no way of knowing. But if you're looking, and I've noticed the other day, or was it yesterday, that there was a report saying that there had been more firearm purchases here in the United States this past year than ever before in the history of America. And those are the ones that they know about. There's a lot of firearm purchases, I'm sure, that's gone on this year that were completely off the record, and that's not illegal. A lot of people think that is. In some states it may be, but in the state that I live in, it is not illegal to buy a firearm off the record, meaning an individual transfer, person to person. And so I'm sure a lot of that was going on also. So those numbers, sales numbers, were probably substantially higher than what the FBI or whoever it was putting out. Drew Witness, hello. Well, we've got over 200 people in the stream right now. That's pretty cool. Someone's from Northport. Someone was talking about 458 SOCOM being really expensive, and then 22 is rare. That's true. 22 has been hard to come by. It's been that way for years, though. It's been just kind of back and forth on the 223. My son works for a construction company, like commercial construction, and they contracted with a local to him. It's an ammunition company, a big ammunition company that does a lot of contracting with the DOD, their ammunition. And they hired my son's company that he works for to come in and help them build a new facility because of the backlog and the amount of ammunition sales were skyrocketing. And my son said that when they were he was talking to one of the employees there, one of the managers, and the guy said that really the big reason why at that time, and this has been a couple of months ago, 2, 3 months ago, at the time, the shortage of ammunition, he said it wasn't so much of the sales. He said, yes, they've increased substantially. He says, but we should be able to handle that. He said it's the increase in orders from the government. He said that is what is just overwhelming us. And we're talking, he said, in the numbers of hundreds of millions of additional rounds of ammunition that they are ordering this year over and above what they normally order. So that's also interesting to hear. I mentioned that way back when that happened, when I heard that on this channel. Yes, Dakota lost all of his guns in a boating accident. And that happens all the time. I'm telling you, that happens all the time. I heard that the ATF was going to be issuing flotation devices for guns to try to prevent that from happening. And that's just a shame that all of your guns have been lost in a boating accident. I tell people, especially online, if I'm online in any kind of group and they ask about guns, I just respond, I don't have any. Guns are awful. I don't have any guns. Who do I have people talking about? Government.
Up here, there's a couple of comments talking about
Ohio's here.
how the virus is not that big of a deal, how they haven't isolated it.
Hold on, Halltown, Missouri. Hey, I know where that's at. My mother lives just a few miles from Halltown, Missouri, so I know where that's at. So they're talking about the virus and
Walter, no, I'm sorry.
And how that's right.
James Weiser says, according to the test, my 26-year-old brother caught the cerveza bug and he felt fine. He said the flu was worse for him.
Yeah.
So we've got
been just in the last week or so here where we live. There's been a couple of our friends that have been confirmed that they have it, and that's guinea hens. If you don't know. They're quite obnoxious at times. Anyways, this virus has recently been confirmed to have the deadly disease that's going around. And she said that it's basically like a cold, a mild flu. She said that she's, able to do pretty much what she wants to. And then we have, my wife and I have a couple of friends of ours, and they're older than us. They're in their late 50s, and they both last week was diagnosed with it or whatever. And she said that she was a little lethargic, kind of down. I mean, they're still able to function. Her husband is getting it a little bit worse. That he just doesn't have a lot of energy, and that's what they said, that they just don't have a lot of energy. Amazingly, we're not hearing anything about the flu this year. I mean, if we're not into the flu season, we're certainly close to the flu season. Someone was at Jackie from Missouri. Is that right? Yes, Jackie from Missouri. Hello. And now we've got a rooster screaming in my ear. So it's interesting. There's definitely something going on. My wife and I were talking about this the other day. Of what it is. And here, my personal assessment, non-expertise assessment, is that there's something out there. There's something that's affecting people. There's something that's getting people sick. It's very interesting to me how in the beginning, so many people were getting really, really ill with it. We saw these videos of ventilators and people getting extremely ill with it, and we're not hearing that much anymore. It doesn't mean people aren't. I mean, if you look at the daily death count, there's certainly still people, succumbing to this, but we're not being bombarded as much with how severe this is. And going back, if you remember back in the spring in Europe, they were showing that, and in China of how bad it was, and now it doesn't. We're not seeing that. And has the virus weakened? The treatments, unless I'm not aware of it, it doesn't appear that there's been a whole lot of improvement in treatments because some of these miracle drugs haven't come out yet. And then, of course, there's the vaccine, the all amazing miracle vaccine that they're, planning to unleash on us in the coming weeks. I'm reading the comments, so let's see. I'm going to try to catch up with it. My wife walked away. She's over there feeding the chickens because they're driving me nuts, trying to, curious at what I'm doing. So she's tossing them some food out so they'll leave us alone, hopefully. So I'm just trying to keep caught up on the comments myself. Let's see. The other thing that we talked about lockdowns, about the virus, and we talked about the election, and the one thing that we've been talking about lately a lot is the shortages. I saw something in the news just today that they're reporting shortages of spices. That there's just not enough spices to go around, cooking spices, and so that's interesting. They're saying that it may affect people's holidays this year because there's just not enough spices for people to cook their holiday meals. And there definitely appears to be in some areas, and that's the thing. I've having the audience that I do here. I talk to people from all over the world, really, but mostly the country. Occasionally, I get emails from other countries. My dog will not leave me alone. Go on. No one will leave me alone out here to talk to you folks. Hillbilly Hal. Hey, Hillbilly. Anyways, there does seem to be places that there are shortages. Is there an overall shortage? Who knows? I know from our experience here locally, there are times that we'll go to the store and it's packed. The shelves are pretty much full. And then there's other times we'll go and there's just empty shelves everywhere. And I understand that that's just a kind of a cycle of restocking shelves. But before 2020, I don't recall seeing that often, especially around here. Pretty much the grocery stores, Walmart, places like that, were pretty much always fully stocked. I mean, occasionally there might be an item that they would run low on. So there's obviously something going on. We're hearing stories from, stores, grocery stores, Walmart, places like that they are stocking up, that they're stockpiling things. We're hearing stories that the government is stockpiling things. There was that report a couple of months ago out of the state of Washington that the state of Washington was causing a lot of shortages because they themselves were stockpiling, we're buying lots and lots and lots of stuff. Hey, someone here said they go to Mama Jean's. We occasionally go there. It's a really cool little natural food store.
Strong Like Mountain says, someone tell me this guy is a leftist.
Me? Is someone think I'm a leftist? You know what? Not looking at what is considered a left or right or anything nowadays, I would consider myself a centrist only because the only reason I say that is because blue-faced, thank you very much. God bless your family also. Anyways, the reason why I would say centrist is because I see extremists on, all fronts. Now, if you asked yes, Mama Jean's Natural Food Store, we go there. We're not close to it, but when we're in that area, we do go there. Sometimes we go to the original one in Ava. But anyways, on my political affiliation, because I guess someone called me a leftist or something like that in the comments, or that I could be. If I was compared to most people today, I would be considered a hard right extremist, right? I believe abortion is wrong. I love guns. I think that there should be as little government as possible. So a lot of my political, might sound libertarian, although sometimes, the big L libertarian, no, not at all. I consider myself a constitutionalist. I just saw, it looked like William said that. And I tell that, that's how I say it. I would like to think I'm a centrist because I don't consider my views to be really that extreme. I remember reading once that John Wayne, the great actor, was asked once what his political affiliation was. And he said, well, I always thought I was a Democrat because I was a man for the people. He said, but then I found out the Democrats what they are. He said, so I'm not that. So I consider myself a centrist, but I think in today's world, a centrist you are either wishy-washy or accepting of a little bit of everything, or I don't know, but no, I'm not that. So yes, a constitutionalist would probably be the best way to describe my political affiliation. I don't like a lot of government, and I wish we lived in a world we didn't have to have government.
A centrist is a fence rider and stuck in the middle.
Yes.
If you lean left, you're my enemy.
A centrist is a fence rider and stuck in the middle. That's the idea today. I try to always see both sides. Unfortunately, we live in a world that the left seems to be more crazy and crazy anymore, and you can't hardly reason with them or see their side. That's my opinion, and I may upset some people in the chat today, but that is my opinion. I've always tried to look at both sides and see where people are at. And a conservative, I definitely would consider myself a conservative, except I see what people consider a conservative nowadays, and I'm like, well, I'm not that. And then you hear what people call a libertarian, and I actually this year, just out of curiosity, looked up some of the candidates for the Libertarian Party and some of the stuff that they're doing. And if you're with the Libertarian Party, I'm sorry if I offend you, because I have friends I have actually friends that's run for office and with the Libertarian Party, and some of the stuff that they're accepting, and it's crazy. To me, it's not libertarian, the old classical liberalism. But yeah, constitutionalist, that would definitely, I would like to think that if I was back in the time of Patrick Henry and Thomas Jefferson and James Madison and folk of that stature, that I would fit in quite well with them. Thomas Jefferson was always one of the people that I enjoyed reading and learning about. Patrick Henry, Richard Lee, Henry Lee, which is Robert E. Lee's father. Folks like that were always ones that I liked their political side. So there's
says I'm with you, brother. Less government.
Less government, the better, is what I think. I think that, and conservatives used to be that way. Republicans have always talked that talk, but we don't see it anymore. Our government hasn't reduced in size in probably a century. I'd have to look up the numbers, the amount of spending and the growth, but I know in my lifetime, throughout all the presidents we've had, no matter how liberal or how conservative they are, the government has continued to grow with each presidency. So I think it's just in how they grow. And I heard it once, and I've repeated this myself many times. The difference between the Republican and Democrat Party is there are two cars driving down the road, and at the end of that road there's a cliff, and one car is doing 30 miles an hour and the other car is doing 90 miles an hour. So it just all depends on how fast you want to get there.
Idalia says that she thinks it's a distribution problem because in Florida she had loads of paprika pallets but no other spices.
Yeah, distribution. My wife was saying in the comments, someone was talking about how there's a distribution, and I with that. How much of that is just coincidental and it happens? Is there, we know definitely for sure back in, going back to the food shortages, switching gears rapidly here, the only party is the American Party. I don't know that there really is an American Party, but sounds like something I would be all right with that. Yeah, so Joe Biden is going well over 90 miles an hour towards that cliff. That's for certain. Anyways, but yeah, back in the spring and the summer, there were definitely obvious distribution problems. There were a lot of factories that were shut down or down to limited distribution or limited production. That's the word I was looking for, because of, sending people home and have this kind of, shutdowns. But I don't know if that's still going on. I haven't heard if that kind of stuff is still going on, or most factories are back up and going. Someone mentioned Ron Paul, and Libertarian Party was great when Ron Paul was around. I agree with that. I've met Ron Paul a few times, actually had the opportunity of sitting and talking with him, and he is really a great person, and I think he's truly genuine. My opinion was, when the last couple of times that he ran for office, I never thought he would have a chance, not because he wasn't good enough or didn't deserve it or anything like that. I didn't think that the American population would see him as a strong leader. He's very timid in the way he speaks and his mannerisms and stuff, and I thought the American people probably would want more of a charismatic person. Of course, I don't think that Joe Biden's very charismatic, and he's still in the running. But I do like Ron Paul. I like his policies. I like his thinking. Like I said, I've had the opportunity to sit a few times and talk with him, and so it was kind of picked his brain a few times, and he really sold me over as someone that knows his stuff. So unfortunately, I don't think he has the health to ever run again, but as a statesman, he has done, I think, quite a bit to kind of open people up to that more constitutional and libertarian ideas, especially the traditional libertarian, not this, modern whatever libertarianism that's going on around, where it's like everything goes. You can choose whatever gender you want. You can, do whatever you want. That I'm not quite on board with. I still have morals, and I think that there should be certain levels of morality within government. So that's kind of where I stand. I wish, because pure libertarianism, borders on anarchism. And I don't mean chaos, but I mean, very, very limited government. And there's always those that make an argument that that's the best way to be. And my argument is, yes, in a perfect world. In a perfect world, communism would be the best form of government if everyone that ran it was a perfectly moral person. But they're not, and that's why communism is awful. So the same way with, no government, or very, very tiny, tiny government to the point of anarchism. There's not enough moral people in the world left, I don't think, to make that successful. So I don't know. I don't think enough people can wrap their head around that type of minimalist government. And so I think in the end, that's why we probably should have at least civil. And of course, government constantly grows. That's just how it is. All governments do. They always have, they always will. And so that's why there should be we, the people, to keep them in check. And in the beginning, we kind of did, and we've lost that over the last few decades. Thomas Jefferson said it right, that the tree of liberty must be refreshed time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. It is its natural manure. He did not believe that the form of government they created under the Constitution would last more than about 70 years. Most of the founding fathers that wrote about it talked about it. If it could last 50 to 100 years or less than that, they would be happy. And here we are 250 years later, it still exists, but look at what exists. I'm not saying that the American government should go away, but I do think a certain level of revolution probably would be a good thing. There's my extremist views.
Pastor of Reality says, yes, the supply chains are barely handling demand. And I think that probably is one of the issues, that we've talked about other issues. It's not just demand.
Yeah, the supply chains are really struggling. And to be honest with you, I haven't quite figured out everything of why. There's supply chains of imports that seem to be affected. Cans for canned goods, the lining inside of canned goods seems to be shortages. Certain paper products, even certain inks that they print on paper, seems to be a shortage. There are already, yes, Aldi is a good place to stock up if you have an Aldi's nearby. We haven't been there in a while, but that is a pretty good place to stock up. If there's a lot of shortages in other countries too. Maybe countries that are experiencing other things, natural disasters. China is one that keeps popping into my head. Australia. There are other countries. Brazil. Brazil is a major producer of food, and they are really struggling this year with a lot of their food. Now, here in the United States, it just depends on where you're at. Certain areas of the country has produced an overabundance of food, certain foods. Some states it's kind of, flatlined, and then other states, or other areas, it's absolutely awful with the production of food this year. So one thing I mentioned in a video a week or so ago, I don't know how many of you caught it, is like with many things in our system, and this is my personal belief, like with many things in the system that we live in, all the different systems of systems, I believe that the food supply system is quite fragile, and we are seeing how fragile it is. We're not talking massive reductions in production, massive reductions in growing and the actual production on the harvesting end, the production on processing and putting it into a usable product. We're not seeing massive reductions in that. We're seeing small reductions in that. And we're seeing how much those small reductions are really harming the system. And I think that's the world needs less soy. I would agree with that. Who is that? I didn't even see. Someone said that in the comments. The world needs less soy. So I think what we're seeing with the food system is how even just a small dent in the food supply system can really hurt us. So going into the winter, going into, more shutdowns, may not be widespread, but they definitely could be widespread shutdowns. And then there's been a lot of natural disaster activity this year, and I haven't seen specific numbers, but it does appear to me that there's been a lot more activity than recently. Look at the big typhoon, super ultra typhoon, or whatever that's hitting the Philippines. I mean, that thing set like a tidal for record winds, and that thing was massive. The storms that hit up in Iowa back in the summer, the amount of hurricanes that's come through the Gulf Coast and hit the United States this year is just astronomical, and tropical storms, the amount of earthquakes, it's on and on and on, the amount of things that's happened. So you put all that together, along with the election cycle and the rioting and this great reset that the elites are just cramming down everyone's throat, will all that together cause great food shortages, cause a crumbling effect, a domino effect of our food supply system? I think definitely yes. I think it's easily possible. If you look at your average community, and this really doesn't matter the size. It doesn't matter if you live in a town of 2,000 or if you live in a town of 2 million. The average town has about a 3-day food supply. And that's true with your average household. So in other words, the town that you live in or the town that you live by, if they were cut off from the outside world, they would run out of food in 3 days. That is pretty much standard across the United States. Think about that. Think about how weak that makes the whole system. It doesn't even have to be some type of big apocalypse, snowstorms, ice storms, hurricanes. That's why when these types of things hit communities, there's such a rush to get in and help them, because there just isn't a supply system within each town, at least most all towns, that is capable of lasting much longer than just a few days. People start running out of food, running out of fuel, running out of water, sanitation services. So if that happens across a large part of the country, a large region, a state, several states, or even the entire nation, it would not take very long to watch the domino effect, and really more of a snowball effect. starting out small, but very, very rapidly growing to where it's just out of control. And so that is really why a lot of people, if that, reason alone, that's why you should prep. Have stuff set aside. I saw that there were several colleges, universities over the past week that's telling their students that they need to have a week or so food supply because of the election, especially in Washington, D.C. Most of the universities there are telling their students, you need to have food stocked up for at least a week or two because they're expecting a lot of civil unrest there. So how bad could it get in Washington, D.C. if things kind of shut down for a while? That's why we should prepare. That's why you should have food. And it's not that difficult. We have 5 kids living at home. And trust me, they all eat well. The little ones, we got 7-year-old twins and they can out-eat me. We have a 12-year-old boy, and trust me, he can definitely out-eat me. And he's skinny as a rail. So we understand what a big food bill every month is. We understand what it costs to family. So if we're not saying go out and take what you would normally buy for groceries and just continue buying more of that. Some of the things you can, but you have to realize that there's going to be some that's just luxury items. You're not going to prep everything, but there are certainly things you can prep. When we go grocery shopping, and we do this every time, it's every time. We always spend a little bit extra that's just prep. Doesn't mean that when we go grocery shopping, we're going to drop $500 on prep foods. That's not it. If we buy, a few cans of green beans, we may pick up an extra 5, 6, or a dozen or whatever, depending on if they're on sale or not. If they're on sale, I may pick up a whole flat of green beans and cans or whatever it is. And we do this each time. We know that we're going to spend a little bit, whether it's $20, $50 or whatever each time we go grocery shopping. Yes, occasionally we may make a larger purchase. We may have a grocery shopping trip that's just prep food. That's all pretty much we do. We're just going today and we're going to, take the amount of money that we have set aside and we're just going to buy groceries for preps. Over time, you can build up a pretty good supply of preps, food preps, and it's not as daunting as it you would think. And a lot of people might say, well, if it costs $1,000 a month in groceries to feed my family, and if I have to have a 12-month food supply, that's $12,000 I have to spend. No, it doesn't work that way. There are some very economical ways that you can stock up. For instance, for us, and I'm going to wrap this up soon, but I'm going to go ahead and give you this little tip. Oh, my wife's got to tell me something in the comments. What?
So Angela Marie says she will not attach her consent to either party, which I thought was kind of
Yeah, Angela Marie won't consent to either party. I support that idea.
And then Beth says, is your beard real or is it a disguise?
Okay, I'm going to stop for a minute and talk about that. I get this all the time about my beard. My beard is quite real. It cracks me up when people ask if I'm wearing a fake beard, a disguise. No, this is not a disguise. It's very real. I stopped shaving on a regular basis back in 2008, and for the last 3 years or so, I have pretty much just let it do this. About once, maybe twice a year, I trim the crazy edges off, but no, this is a real beard. But anyways, going back to the food, we have a lot of the staples, beans, rice, those things that you hear all the time with preppers. But we don't plan on just eating beans and rice. So what we would do if we had to really dig into our preps, the beans and rice would kind of be the filler. And then we have vegetables and spices and other things that we add to the beans and rice, so that we have an actual full meal. My wife is trying to get a hold of my attention here.
Well,
what?
Merry Christmas 2.0 sent $2.
I thought I saw someone.
And then Rick Logston.
Thank you, Merry Christmas 2.0.
Rick Logston says acorn, wild edibles, supplement the garden.
That's right. Thank you for. I'm going to talk real quick about wild foraging, and then I'll probably get off of here. It's a little chilly today, and I've been sitting out here in this breeze, so I'm starting to get a little chilled. yes, wild foraging is a big deal, and you should do that, especially if you live in any kind of area that you're capable of it. I understand if you're like, hey, I live in a high-rise in downtown Chicago. That may not work for you. Willow is asking how Mrs. TPH is doing, how my wife is doing. I think she's okay.
I'm cold.
She says she's cold standing out here too. Our house, it's a metal, so we can't get enough signal inside. So everything internet we pretty much have to do out here. Anyways, priority for all preppers. Not because there's a possibility that everything would collapse and we would all be thrown back to the Stone Age. I mean, I guess that's always a possibility, but you can supplement if you do it right and you learn how to do it. You can actually supplement your food bill pretty good with wild edibles. Acorns, which was mentioned, is a big one around here. You know, our property is full of oak trees. There's oak trees all around us, and if there's some processing to it, but you can turn acorns into some really great flour. And the Native Americans, that was one of their main staple foods, was acorns, especially around here. And you can pick up, I'm sure, probably hundreds and hundreds of pounds of acorns in this area. Walnuts, obviously. Grow in your own garden. Huge grow in your own garden. Raising animals. We've put up, I think, around 400 pounds of chickens this year. And we have, obviously, the ones you can hear running around. That's the eggs, and some of those next year will probably be butchered also. We have some small livestock. There are a lot of ways that you can supplement that. The upfront cost to these things are, like this year, we didn't save any real money with our garden this year because this is our first year here. So we had to put all our money into getting it going. But over time, we will. And, each year there'll be less and less money as the garden kind of grows and develops. So yes, growing your own food, raising your own food, foraging your own food, hunting your own food, fishing, all those types of things you need to be practicing, you need to be working on, having the equipment available to do that. One thing I would mention, I'll probably do another video. I did a video a long time ago on this, and I might revisit it. Hunting and fishing are excellent things for you to prepare for, to do on a regular basis, but definitely in a preparedness, SHTF situation. But the flip side of that is a lot of people say, oh, well, I won't prep any food. I'm just going to go out and hunt and fish. Well, a lot of other people are going to do that also. And so even out here where things are very plentiful, I know that if things collapsed, there would be a lot of people running out here, hunting up all the deer that's available, probably, just as fast as they can do it. They would figure, well, Tiawaki, or, whatever the rule without law has happened, so we can just hunt as much as we want. And it wouldn't take very long for that deer population or small animal population to be deplenished, I think, to almost nothing. So if that is your only plan, is to run out and do a lot of fishing and hunting, it's not a very good plan. But those things can definitely supplement your preparedness plan and supplement your daily life. I mean, that's a big part of our food. We don't eat really any meat. We don't buy any meat that we don't raise. I mean, we raise our own meat. I'll get it out correctly here in a second. We raise our meat. That's it. We don't purchase meat because it's one of the easier things for us to raise. So these kind of things can be done. Some questions. I'll take a few questions and then I'm going to get off of here.
Way to heat indoors.
Affordable way. That all depends on where you live. Around here in the Ozarks, the most affordable way to heat your home is through wood. The Ozarks is predominantly a hardwood forest, and it's very plentiful. And a cord of wood will cost you around $140 to have it delivered. And around here, depending on the home, depending on the wood stove, 4 cords of wood, maybe 5 cords, will probably do you the winter. And that just all depends on, if it's a good insulated home and a good stove, 4.5 to 5 cords of wood would do you. You can also cut it yourself. So wood is probably, one of the cheaper for most people, and it's definitely the easiest for you to get a hold of. Things like coal. We don't have coal mines around here. So it's not something that's accessible to me. Propane, you have to have a lot of it in store. I understand that it lasts, pretty much forever, but, are you able to store up a lifetime supply of propane? Most people, the answer is no. Every other type of heat source, you're depending upon the system. So there's that part. As far as economically, around here, most people, it's either wood or propane. Natural gas isn't available out here in the country, and electric is usually just too expensive for most people. So usually it's propane, and for those that are, uh, willing to deal with wood, because there is some work to it. Okay, there's work to the wood. Um, Whether you cut it or not, even if you have delivered, there's still work to burning wood for heat. That is usually what people do. Is there another question?
I'm picking 3 more.
Okay.
But this one's kind of my question.
My wife has a
said
question
she
too.
seriously needs some hands-on training for wild foraging, so I'm going to ask.
Okay, someone he wants hands-on training for wild foraging. I have.
Please tell them again that you're an herbalist.
I am an herbalist. I've been trained professionally and mentored under a couple of amazingly good herbalists. So I do. I'll do my best to leave a picture in the community section. But like a Peterson's book is a really good one to know what's available. There's a Peterson's Field Guide for herbal medicinal plants, and that's my favorite. That's a good place to start so that can kind of get you going. But maybe we can re-talk on that subject soon on the YouTube channel. What was another one?
Pastor of Reality asks,
Pastor of Reality.
Last-minute advice before the election.
Last-minute advice before the election. Well, that's all depends on probably where you're at. For us, I don't think much is going to change for us because we're pretty secluded out here. But for most people, if there's just some last-minute things you might want to buy, tomorrow would be the last day you can do that. I would hope that you have at least enough to get you through, at the minimum, 2 to 4 weeks. I mean, and that's the smallest amount that I would say at least 3 months, because that'll get you through to the inauguration. But at the minimum, 2 to 4 weeks if you can't do anything else. And then just plan on not doing a whole lot. Like I said the other day, by next weekend, we should probably have a pretty good idea of whether or not all the violence is actually going to happen and kind of how big it's going to be. If by next weekend it's just some little rioting here and there and people being upset, then it may not be a big deal. The thing is I don't think we're going to know who wins for a while. I really don't. And here's the reason why. It really doesn't even matter what the numbers come out, because if it shows that Trump's winning overwhelmingly, Biden is certainly not going to accept that. He's going to, reject that and try to sue in court and all that. And most likely Trump would do the same thing. If it's narrow and it's something that it takes them forever to actually determine, that could end up also in the courts. So I can't see a scenario right now that we're going to know within 24 to 48 hours of the election of who absolutely will be the president, and that it will be settled and everyone will accept that. I cannot think of a scenario for that. So I think that there's going to be a lot of problems. And I could certainly see, with all the other things going on in the world and the United States right now, that this issue being something that causes a lot of things to kind of spiral out of control, along with the violence and the disruption of supply lines and on and on. So hunker down if you need to, kind of know where things are at and where your family's going to be. And I wouldn't be going out too often. If you live in areas that they're prone to more protests and violence, just for your own personal safety. That's not being a coward. That's just, taking care of yourself. And, be ready. I'm not saying already go ahead and do it, but be ready to start enacting some of your preparedness plans. Things that you've talked about and thought about and planned of for years, the what ifs. This could be potentially one of those what ifs, you know, becoming reality. So be ready for that. And in the next few days or a week, at least a week, if nothing happens, then, you know, it was all for nothing. But I think the odds are pretty good that at least something's going to happen. Last one.
A question.
Oh, it's
no,
not a question.
It's not a question, so it's not the last one.
Oh.
But I need you to make it clear that when listening to you, that they need to research on their own.
Yes. Okay. When you guys, I think
acorns are high in tannic acid,
yes,
which is true, but like you didn't say to eat them raw.
For most of you, I think most of you know this. Take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that I don't know what I'm talking about, but you need to do your own research. Yes, acorns are high in tannic acid. That, when I said, there's a certain process. You have to process them to get that tannic acid out to make them edible. Once you do that, then you have a very good and edible food source. But always do your own research. You should always do that, regardless of who you're listening to. I don't care if it's the president, whoever it is. Do your own research. One more quick one, and then I'm out of here.
Well,
if we have one. I do want to say thank you for everyone that's jumped in today. I know I wasn't able to answer everyone's questions. I'm going to work on, I thought I had it planned out to have a smooth show with the equipment that I had, and then starting off, it was all just failing. So now I've ended up being stuck with this little tiny phone to do this live stream, and I'm struggling on seeing all of your comments on this tiny screen.
So this isn't a question.
Hopefully we'll fix that.
It's a good way to end because we know people also, and this person says a couple of my friends in active duty military don't think it's going to go well. Like we've seen a lot of deployments. Yes,
someone was commenting that a lot of active duty people are saying that they don't think that it's going to go well, and I've heard that also. I've had people contacting me saying that they themselves, or they have family, or they have friends that's in military or state law enforcement, and they're preparing big time. They are getting really geared up, and a lot of them. Hey, Ed Healy said he's getting snow tonight.
The triplet daddy is a triplet daddy. We have twins.
There's someone, a triplet daddy in here. We have twins, so congratulations, triplet daddy in there. But yeah, there's a lot of build-up militarily and in law enforcement and they believe, a lot of the people I've heard on the inside believe that something big is going to happen from all this election. So that's one more thing to get yourselves ready for.
There's a couple of comments. Do not comply, also vote, which is kind of funny. And then the second thing is to trust in God 100%.
And a twin mom, yes, and trust in God 100%. That's true.
Hi, Esther.
All right.
I'm a twin mom.
So thank you for watching. The map project is trucking right along full speed. So you can go back in the videos on the channel, and you can watch if you want to know more about. And the map is just a way for you folks to find connections. It's not a dating service. I had someone asking about the dating service. No, it's not a dating service. It's to connect preppers, like MAG groups, mutual assistance, community, that kind of stuff. It's to help you find each other in your area, and so you can start building community. Yes, trust in God 100%. That is 100% true. So thank you all for watching today, and I am going to get off of here.
We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the donations today. Thank you for those of you that's purchased through our affiliate links. It helps us out, and it helps keep this channel moving along. So you folks are a blessing to us. Thank you very much, and I'll catch you in the next video.